Hello YouTubers, we've got a truck full of boat bags, we've got the trailers ready to go, so you know what that means. It's time to transport our boats and ourselves somewhere, and this somewhere is British rowing trials down south, roughly the middle of the United Kingdom in Boston, Lincolnshire, not to be confused with Boston, Massachusetts, where the head of the Charles just was. Today's episode, a little bit of a pre-trials episode, a little bit of chilled out. Myself and DJ Dan Jones are going to get our boats onto the trailer and then get ourselves down to Boston, Lincolnshire, get a little session and get acclimatized down there, and then we get to the trials themselves, which will be this weekend, including a 2K row and a 5K on the water, assuming we do get a decent enough score on the rowing machine. But that's for future Yamsquad to look forward to. Let's get the Yambo number 5 de-rigged and let's head down south. Oh yeah. And that is the Yambo number 5 all bagged up, ready to go onto the trailer to be transported down to Boston, Lincolnshire for British rowing trials. And not only does the Yambo number 5 have to be transported, myself and DJ Dan Jones have to be transported too. So let's get to transporting ourselves there. Have a safe trip, Yambo number 5. And we're on the way down south. We've made it to trials travel day. We've got DJ Dan Jones. We're in the Yam Drover. We're going to head down south today. A little bit different for us both. I'm used to traveling. The last time I went to Boston for trials was going via Henley. So going north. And you usually go from?
Leeds or York, so it's a lot shorter than today. Today it's going to be long.
So we've got about 300 miles or so, about 5 hours with some stops for some snacks, because remember, food is fuel. Had a little bit of an erg this morning, nice and relaxed, to keep in line with this video, nice relaxed one. DJ Dan Jones and I heading down south, and then enjoying the next couple of days, like I mentioned, acclimatizing to the area. Yeah. Obviously, it's very different to Strathclyde Park, and then getting used to the water, and then we head on to the rowing machine for the next episode. So make sure you are subscribed for that. But now it's time to travel. Will you? Oh. Filling up the Yam Drover, because remember, fuel is fuel.
Fuel is fuel. So, Cam, a couple of quick questions.
Yes.
Firstly, this is obviously the November trials we're heading into now. It's the first trial of the season. Which is your favourite trial for the team, and why, would you say?
Well, for those of the viewers, the Yamsquad that don't know, there's a couple of different trials. There's November, December, February, April, and then maybe an extra one depending on the year. For this one coming up, 2K on the rowing machine, 5K on the water. I'm not really one for the longer distances or doing time trials. So for my favourite trial would probably not be this one. I would more tend it to the shorter pieces. The later on in the season trials, especially the April trial, the final trials, they have some side-by-side racing, and that's probably my favourite trial because of that side-by-side racing. But unfortunately, you can only do the side-by-side racing if you go fast enough in the time trial. So we have to practice throughout the year, so the February, December, November, all time trials, to get ready for that first time trial at April trials, to hopefully, fingers crossed, Yamsquad get us through to the side-by-side racing.
So obviously you've been trialling before in pairs. What's different this time in a single? How are you preparing differently? You've trialed in a single before, but how does it compare?
So obviously in the single versus in a pair, there's sculling versus sweep, 2 oars in a single, 1 oar each in the pair, and also there's someone with you at all times. So yes, DJ Dan Jones behind the camera and I are driving down to Boston, Lincolnshire together, but we're in 2 separate boats. Usually in the pair, you're with them driving to training, you're with them during training, you're with them in between sessions, you're with them racing, all that stuff. Whereas in the single, you're very much more by yourself a lot of the time. So that's the biggest thing. You don't have someone to lean on when things get tough. So we've made it about halfway now. DJ Dan Jones and I just getting a little bit of stretching in, getting the legs moving so that we're not building up any unnecessary stiffness that may build up over a longer period in the Yam Drover. Got a little ball to sit on, put on my back, as well as my massage gun as well. Really good. I really recommend having one or the other, or both if you can, just to help you get a little bit more comfortable, especially when you get to where you are going. And as always, remember, food is fuel. Even on the days when we're not really doing much, still have to fuel up and make sure we are properly fueling the body, especially in anticipation for a big race.
How are you going to stay fresh as well for this trial? What's the tips and tricks of just peak performance, I guess?
So to hit peak performance on the day, so like I said already, 2K on the Saturday, rowing machine test, and then 5K time trial, assuming we hit the cut-off times in the 2K. You want to go and get a good score on the 2K. It's going to take a lot out of you. So you have to be able to both be fit enough to do a hard 2K on one day and the next day do a hard 5K. And that isn't just a case of being fit, there's also things you can do. So fueling up, because remember food is fuel, and it's quite difficult because when you do the 2K on the rowing machine, you can stay and watch other people, you can catch up with people you've not seen in a while, and forget that, oh, I've just finished my 2K maybe an hour, 2 hours ago, and I haven't fueled properly after to get your body going and getting it prepared to get it recovered for the next day, which can be really important. It's a longer piece and can really hit those energy systems hard, which have already been hit hard the day before, especially when going flat out on a 2K. So fueling up and timing wise of that fueling up can be really important.
Oh yeah.
To where we're staying, absolutely fantastic. Got a little holiday home for DJ Dan Jones and I. Kitchen where we'll be preparing our food, because remember food is fuel. Relaxing where we will be hopefully increasing our recovery scores, and then the 6 bedrooms back there, absolutely fantastic. See you tomorrow. Second day heading into trials. We have British rowing trials tomorrow. Today, a little bit of paddling. We've picked up a Harry for the journey with DJ Dan Jones after a fantastic night's sleep in the caravan? The accommodation? The Yammer van? Now time to head on to the water to get used to the location. Absolutely gorgeous day here in Boston, Lincolnshire today to get on the water and acclimatise to said water. So for those of you that don't know the water here, it's a canal just over a little ridge there, and it's quite a long stretch. So it's a 5K time trial obviously, so it has to be longer than 5K to do the race. So we're going to rig the boats. I'm not going to film the rig like I did de-rigging, just because it takes a little bit of time. I'm going to try to get on the water nice and efficiently. So, see you on the water. Boston, Lincolnshire on the water, yeah! Let's get going. Watch the steps there, Dan.
Thank you. Watch the grass there, Cam. It's a bit sticky.
Oh,
Oh, you got it. You got it.
got it, got it. Oh yeah, very finesseful. Dan Jones ready for the start. Paddling. Go. Build. Line. Go.
We'll see.
Session complete. And we have made it back to the caravan slash motorhome slash accommodation for this evening post session on the water with some food, because remember, food is fuel and we have to recover after any session, especially on the days prior to racing. It's not so much the idea of carb loading and trying to overfuel yourself. Our racing that we're doing, 2k on the machine or 5k on the water, isn't necessarily long enough to really have a massive effect on carb loading, but it's not going to hurt. So making sure that we are properly fueled, and it's always good, especially if you're a heavyweight and you're not really looking at your weight, it's better to be overfueled than underfueled. So making sure I've got the big bowl full most of this evening prior to the 2k on the row machine tomorrow, so that I do increase the chances of me getting a good score. The water itself, pleasurable experience out there, learning the course once more, getting out there. It's so 5k on the water, like I said, and it's about 2k, then quite a sharp sort of bend, and then 3k to finish off. And it's always good to get out there before you get on the race in anger, because you can start to think, okay, at this point I should be feeling this, at that tree I want to be doing this, and you can start to associate things that maybe you're visualizing in your head, you may be wanting to do. You can start to put them to an external point, if that makes any sense. So there were a couple of points throughout the race, throughout the paddle down the course today, that I was thinking, okay, that's where I would like to move, or maybe that's where I'm thinking, okay, if I make it to that point in the race, if I make it to that tree or that fence or that house, I'm going to be okay and we're going to make it. So always good to get on the course. And it's not the exact conditions for tomorrow, it was more of a tailwind down the course, and we're going to have tomorrow or even Sunday depending if the weather stays how it's supposed to in the forecast, it's going to be more of a head/crosswind. So not exactly the conditions, but the locations aren't going to change. So good to get out there and relearn the course. Like I said already, I've not been on the course here in Boston for a couple of years now, and especially not been out in the single. So good to get out there with DJ Dan Jones, paddling down the course, getting some pieces in, getting some paddling down the course, and obviously just getting the body moving, so we're not just sitting and getting tense and getting nervous. So putting some energy out there, so now it's chance to recover. And that will be it for today's episode, Yamsquad. Hopefully you enjoyed it. A little bit of a pre-trials episode, a little bit more relaxed, and then we're going to the tense episodes coming up. So this should be like a 3-part series. We've got the pre-trials video. We've got, hopefully, if everything goes to plan, the 2K rowing machine episode. That'll be for me tomorrow. And then we have the 5K row, assuming my 2K goes fast enough to hit the cutoff so I can do the 5K on the water. So fingers crossed, Yamsquad. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you hit that like button. If you aren't subscribed, it'd be great if you could subscribe, especially to make sure you're notified for the upcoming episodes for British Rowing Trials. And I will see you in one of those upcoming episodes. Oh yeah!